Hey guys, today I'm working on a 2003 Dodge Ram 2500 with the 5.9 Cummins engine in it. This is my personal truck, not a customer's, nothing like that. It's my personal truck. Was on lunch one day and engine started knocking. A little backstory is I rebuilt this engine 5 6 months ago now I think. It's got about 9,000 miles on the rebuild. About 4,000 miles ago, I put new injectors in it because the injectors were going bad. So, going to lunch one day, coming over a bridge, coming up to a red light, started knocking. Oil pressure's good. Wasn't throwing any codes. I could sit there and turn off every single injector, unplug every single injector, and wouldn't change it. The weird thing is, it's only doing it when you rev it up. It's not doing it at idle. It runs and sounds great at idle. Unfortunately, I already did start on it, so I can't show or hear. Or I can't show you guys what it sounds like. But I can kind of walk you through on how to pull injectors on one of these. You got to pull your valve cover off, and you got to pull your rocker cover, your rocker box off, and that also comes with your injector harnesses. They're 8 mils, 2 studs. Once you pull the injectors off, then you can pull. Once you pull your injector harnesses off, then you can pull your rocker cover or rocker box off, and you can get to everything up on the top end. You need to pull your intake and exhaust rockers off each one. Make sure you set them in order because they do need to go back in the same spot. You also have valve bridges that go between your two intakes and your 2 exhausts. So you have one bridge and another bridge. You need to take those off. Remember the orientation because they do sit a certain way. Once you get all those off, then you need to pull your intake horn off. This is just sitting here. And you need to pull your injector feed tubes off, which are all here. I just have them kind of back in, that way no dirt and stuff like that gets in my fuel rail. After you do that, then you need to pull your injector feed tubes out. I just again have them sitting back in there to try and keep dust and dirt out of the head. Once you do all that, the one back there, number 6, is the hardest. Then you can pull your injectors out. I've already pulled the injectors out and sent them out to get flow tested. Every single one of them tested good, so that's not my problem. I do have a coolant leak that's been there for a while. Just haven't had a chance to fix it, and now unfortunately my truck decided it's going to force me to fix it. So I've stuck a borescope down every single cylinder. Cylinders 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 all look beautiful. No beautiful crosshatch, nothing out of the ordinary. Looks like a good running cylinder. However, cylinder number 5 has some up and down vertical scoring in it, so I think my problem is associated with that cylinder. I did pull the oil filter. I did cut it open. Oil filter looks great. No metal in it. Just drained the oil. No metal in the oil. Came out with the oil. So, but no telling if there's metal in the pan, in the bottom of the pan that did not come out with the oil. So that's going to be the next step. Next step is to pull the oil pan. Unfortunately, with this generation of truck, there's a cross member that goes right here, so you can't actually pull the pan out. You can't drop the pan. The only way to drop the pan is to lift the motor. All right, and my way of gonna lift the motor is use this contraption that I've built, and I use to move a lot of stuff at my house, since I'm out middle of nowhere. I'm gonna hook it up to that lifting eye right there. I'm gonna move valve cover out of the way. You lift it up to that eye, lift the motor up a couple inches, and try and slide the pan out that way. Never done this before, but we're gonna learn together. The engine mounts on this thing do have slots, so all you have to do is just loosen the bolt that goes through the mount. Once I get it apart, I'll show you guys, but all you got to do is loosen that bolt and lift, and it'll slide right out. Obviously, before you do anything, like, disconnect your batteries. I didn't, but you need to, which that's gonna be my next step, is disconnect both batteries, because there's one here, one over there. You're gonna disconnect both batteries and then pull the pan. That's my next step, and I'll be right back once I get the pan dropped or down, and then I'll show you guys my setup. All right, guys, got the pan down, but again, can't pull it out because of the cross member. Next step is to pull your motor mounts out. Yes, I know my drain tube has a kink in it, but it still drains. So, see the motor mount bolts? I'm going to loosen this bolt on both sides. Loosen it. You're going to pull it back about, yay. You don't have to completely pull the bolt out, but you got the one there. You got the one on this side by the starter. You're going to pull those bolts loose, just enough where you can get around that lip up there, but they do have a slot, so all you got to do is just loosen those and then raise the motor up a couple inches. Yeah. Oh. So that's my next step. Be right back. All right, now that you got your engine mount raised up a couple inches on that side and about an inch on this side, oil pan should fall out. By the way, this is a manual transmission truck. It's got the NV5600 in it, so it's a 6-speed. Once you get it jacked up enough, you're gonna finagle it out. Kind of rotate the one to the side, maybe. It's gonna come right out. Next step, you're going to pull your dipstick, or your pickup. You're gonna pull your pickup tube. This particular engine's got these Cummins have a block stiffener plate. Once you get all that off, then you can look up and look at everything. Alright guys, next day here. As you can tell, I've got the block stiffener plate and the oil pickup tube out of it. I have looked in there, rotated everything around. I'm not seeing anything that is concerning. So my next step is to pull the head off. Another tip is when you guys go to lift the engine, pull your 2 bolts out for your fan shroud. You've got a bolt here and one on the other side, and it's just gonna be loose. It'll lift up with the engine when you raise it up. So my next step is I'm gonna pull the push rods, pull my exhaust manifold, and just kind of lean it out of the way. And then I'm gonna pull the head studs and pull the head off. There's gonna be a couple things on the passenger side that I gotta remove. Then there's gonna be your fuel return line off the back of the cylinder head. I believe it's a 3/4 inch bolt, but don't quote me on that. Yeah, that's my next step, is to pull the head, see if something in the head's loose. I'll be back when I get the head off. Alright, it's the next day here. Got the head pulled off. It's kind of windy today, so if you hear some wind, I'm sorry about that. I am outside. Alright, so got the head off. Nut cylinder number 5 had some scoring up and down, so I pulled the piston out. Found it had a broken oil control ring, which, alright, cool. Catch rod bolts seemed a little on the loose side, but nothing that I was too worried about at first. However, once everything dried and I was able to look at it this morning, I don't know how well you can see that. There we go. There's some markings on the piston. Turns out, cylinder number 2, a connecting rod bolt backed out, and so the piston was hitting the head. So, piston was hitting the head because the connecting rod cap was loose, and it ended up spinning the bearing, the connecting rod bearings. Bearings still look beautiful. It had just began to spin. It crushed the tangs, so these bearings are no good. However, luckily the crank is still good. So the crank's good and the head's still good. There's a little bit of marking, but the valves are still straight. The reason why I know that is because at idle this thing ran beautifully. It sounded beautiful. It was just as soon as you gave it any kind of throttle, it started knocking, which was the piston hitting the head. So next course of action is going to be order up a new connecting rod, order up a new piston assembly, and basically just replace everything in that one hole. I'm going to reuse the head. Head is perfectly fine, and reassemble. That is going to be on the next video, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching, guys.